Hey guys, quick note before the video starts. I like to say that sorry that the lighting keeps like changing in the background. I'm not really sure why it's doing that. It might be because I'm moving and it's like being weird, but I think I'll have that fixed for the next video. So thank you for watching. Enjoy the video. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm coming at you with another video that I actually wasn't planning to make, but you know, it's fine because we just finished reading this book for school, so I figured I'd just do a quick little video about it. So technically this isn't a book, but it is pretty much treated like a book in schools. So today I'm going to be going over Othello, and yeah, this is like the school copy that I have, so it's not that great looking, but you know. So anyway, I'm gonna do like a little summary of it like I did in my last video, and then I'm gonna talk about like why I think it's not boring. Shakespeare stuff isn't typically boring, but like some people just don't enjoy reading it, and like I get it because a lot of it's kind of hard to understand, but like if you get the general story and like understand what's going on, it's pretty interesting, you know? So let's get started. So the story of Othello basically happens because this one guy decides that he hates his superior and then decides to end up killing everyone. So in short, the guy who everyone trusts but is actually really untrustworthy is named Iago, and his superior is Othello. Now Othello is also kind of loved by everyone and also loved by Desdemona, his wife. So Iago's mad at Othello because Othello didn't pick him as his like officer because he's like high in the ranks of war, and instead he picked Cassio, one of the other main characters. He has like a mistress named Bianca, and all the like three main characters have like people who love them, but they're not really important to the story. They're just kind of side characters to move the plot along. Like Iago has Amelia, but they don't actually love each other, and like she ends up dying at the end. Anyway, yeah, so the main plot of Othello is kicked off because this one guy is salty that his boss didn't promote him, basically. Once we get into the main story, it's basically just a lot of deception, which is kind of funny because everyone calls Iago like honest Iago, even though it's dramatic irony because everyone reading it knows that Iago is really untrustworthy and a bad person to listen to, but they don't know that in the story. So Iago does some great things, such as get someone drunk to make them confess that they did something that they didn't really do, essentially makes Othello go crazy by feeding him lies, makes Desdemona accidentally steal something that's really important to Othello, give it to someone else, and then have that someone else show it to Othello accidentally, which kind of contributes to him going crazy. He's kind of just like that one video that's like, I got the mind of a mastermind. That's basically what he's like throughout the entire book. He's just kind of like, nobody doubts him, but everyone kind of suspects him. So at the end, basically, like, his wife is like, you know what, were you really the one who caused all these problems? I hate you. And it ends like that, and the problem is that he isn't really brought to justice because, you know, everyone else is dead, but he does still get brought to, like, court and then is put in jail. And then I believe that Cassio is the one who gets to torture him. Now we're gonna get into why this isn't boring. Like, I'm hoping that just hearing the summary you don't think it's that boring, because Shakespeare plays are always an enigma. And according to my teacher, this Othello is basically a tragic version of Much Ado About Nothing, which you might have not read, but basically, yeah, it's like a rom-com version of this where no one dies and everyone gets married at the end, which isn't really like Othello at all, but like, just for reference, it's kind of like the whole like people are together and then this one guy goes and messes everything up kind of thing. Othello is definitely not boring, and that is for many factors. First of all, there's the whole one guy ruins everything thing. But that's kind of funny, especially because of the fact that everyone trusts him, even though nobody should trust him considering he's caused multiple like deaths. Near the end, he's like stabbed someone and everyone still thought he was a good guy because nobody saw it, even though that's kind of not possible considering what he did, but you know, it's Shakespeare, so just go along with it. And then there's also all the storylines about like the main character's marriage being ruined because of him, and like it's just a lot of drama. If you like dramatic TV shows, this is kind of like a lot of Shakespeare plays are like this, but like it's just soap opera in old-timey form, if that makes sense. Like, yes, soap operas don't generally involve people dying, but when they do, it's really dramatic, and that's what happens at the end of like every Shakespeare tragedy. They're always like, oh no, I've been stabbed, and then they die. Another reason why it's definitely not boring is that it actually has a lot of like commentary on racism, like indirect commentary, because you see, Othello is darker skinned. He's basically black, but he's not really, like, ethnicity wise. It's like the main characters are on like this land, like Cyprus, and then he's from like a separate place where they have darker skin and they're referred to as Moors, which is like a racial slur thing, and everyone is like, oh no, the Moor does magic. It's like that kind of thing with like the witchcraft, like racism, everything. Technically that's not an interesting part as much as it is like an important part, but it's still pretty like interesting to see how everyone categorizes like literally the general, like an important figure, as being crazy because he has darker skin than them. And also something that's kind of important and really interesting is the fact that like the whole green-eyed monster term kind of came to popularity in Othello, because the whole idea was that Iago was possessed by like jealousy, or these other characters were possessed by jealousy, because that's how they were, that's how everything they did was kind of explained, like, oh no, they're possessed by the monster of green eyes, and it was like that's where the idea comes in. Othello, baby. Desdemona herself is actually a pretty good character, all things considered. As you know, Shakespeare wasn't really about making women characters that weak, though. There are a lot of exceptions, but generally he tends to make his female characters well-rounded unless they're background characters. Like we have Desdemona, like I said, but then we have Emilia and Bianca, and Emilia and Bianca, like Emilia is strong at the end, but she isn't really given any content until the end, and Bianca is just kind of like a side character. Anyway, Desdemona is given like a kind of strong and powerful character, because even though she doesn't really fight back, she does kind of do this thing where she's important and like helps people out and has her own problems and like throughout the story, as she gets like painted as this like horrible person, Othello like doesn't believe her even though she's literally done nothing wrong ever. So basically, why Othello is really interesting is that it has a ton of like fleshed out characters. It's Shakespeare, which is kind of a like given of being interesting, not always, because he has some stuff that's kind of like iffy, but in general, like, yeah, it's pretty interesting. And then we got all the death at the end. That's kind of fun. Okay, the weird thing about how they die at the end is like they're all in Desdemona's room because Desdemona gets killed via like being strangled basically, and they're all in like her room and arguing and stuff, and then they just keep piling on top of each other as they die. It's a really weird scene to imagine, but like despite the fact that I actually like this story a lot, I don't have a lot to say other than it's really easy to just like read it and then you're like, oh my god, everything happening is just really like a lot. And yeah, so basically the easiest way to read this is to read it out loud or get some way to read it out loud, because there's no way just by reading it you can get everything. Like a lot of what is said is gotten through inflection, all of the like, even if you don't understand like Shakespearean language, if your version even has like a translation on the bottom, it's easier just to have it read out, because you might not understand if something was a joke or serious unless you have the inflection, because you just don't, it's hard to get it unless you're like a Shakespearean expert, which in that case, why are you watching my videos? So anyway, I don't have too much else to say on Othello other than it's pretty great, and I hope that other people find it great too. I don't know how popular it is as part of like a school curriculum, but we definitely have it in our curriculum. And thank you for watching this video on Othello and why it is a pretty cool book. Please comment down below if you have any suggestions for other videos. I was originally going to do something on 1984 first, but then I was like, wait a minute, I just finished this, might as well do a video on it now because it's like fresh in my mind. So I'm going to do that 1984 video. It's just that I've been busy with stuff. Go check out my Instagram and possibly follow it so that I don't have to possibly just worry about speaking to an empty stage, which I'm fine with because I like doing these videos, but also like I would like to have people actually interact, you know? So yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. Since I said I have a schedule, but I actually don't. See ya. Bye.